Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of The Fan Show, where Craig and I will be talking to a number of Tottenham Hotspur fans from around the world, talking about all things Tottenham. Of course, it has been another very busy week, and of course, we are only in June. It is meant to be quiet. Players are off on holidays, but of course, Spurs have changed the manager. Thomas Frank has now been confirmed on a 3-year deal. Now, earlier today, Matisse Tel, it was confirmed that he has signed a 6-year contract at Spurs, signing from FC Bayern. And we have heard reports today from Turkey that Heung-Min Son could be on his way to Turkey to play for Fenerbahce under former Spurs boss Jose Mourinho. Now, we will be talking about everything Tottenham, as I've stated. Now, the guests are welcome to come on for 5 minutes. They can talk about whatever they wish, or they can take the questions from Craig or myself. So if you would like to get involved in tonight's show or a future fan show, please do just send me an email. It is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. But most importantly, our message to you is this show is all about the Tottenham Hotspur fans, and we want to hear from you on how you are feeling about things at the moment and about next season, obviously. Now, let's introduce Craig. Craig Dearman back with me this evening to co-host. Craig, how are you? How's your week been? How's your day been? And happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you as well. Yes. Yeah, it's been good actually. It's been good. Weather's been good. So yeah. But there's never a quiet moment at Tottenham, is there? There really isn't. There's always something going on.
There has been so much news this week. There really has. And like I just mentioned there in the intro, players off on holiday, but there are just so many rumours. There are so many reports. Of course, the transfer window reopens on Monday. That will be open until the 1st of September. So another couple of 2.5 months, I think it is, open for Spurs to do business. Of course, we have changed the manager, Craig. I know you've had mixed feelings over this past week or so. Postecoglou going out the door, Thomas Frank being confirmed as the new Spurs boss on a 3-year deal. I found it pretty strange, I must say, that we haven't seen any type of video or interview. It is so unusual that the Tottenham media team do that. They announce something or someone coming to the football club and not put out any type of video, any type of interview. But, has it sunk in yet? How are you feeling about this appointment?
Yeah, sunk in. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously like a lot of us. I was gutted that Ange didn't get the chance to do season 3. But you just have to get on with it, don't you? It looks like Ange's going to be back in employment pretty quickly anyway. And he got a decent payoff, let's be honest. So just for, Thomas Frank, I mean, he wouldn't have been my choice. I'm not even sure who would have been my choice, but he wouldn't have been high on my list. But looking into him a bit more since he was announced, I think he's going to be good in the Premier League. He's going to be a safe pair of hands. And, with all due respect to Brentford, I think it's safe to say he's probably going to be working with a better group of players overall. You'd think he'd have a bit more money to spend, although this is Tottenham and we don't know that for sure. Let's get behind the manager and see what he can do for us.
Craig, let's get your reaction to Matisse Tel signing a 6-year contract at Spurs. Of course, we signed him on loan in the January transfer window. Of course, was with Spurs the back end of last season. Scored 3 goals for us. What do you make of this deal?
It's 30 million. I'd hoped it would have been a bit less than that. It certainly wasn't anywhere near the 50 that we was quoted, so that's good in a lot of respects. Jury's still out for me with Matisse Tel. You can tell there is a player in there. I don't think we've just seen enough of it so far. But it sounds like they was always going to buy Tel, actually, from what you're reading between the lines. I think they was always going to do that deal. I mean, it was touted when Harry Kane went that there was rumours of Tel coming in, so he's obviously a club signing. And they say Frank's given his approval of it. I think he was going to come in anyway. I think it was one of them, but only a young player. So let's give him a bit of a chance. But the jury's still out for me on Tel.
I'm going to save the conversation on Son for a number of guests that are going to come on. Let's get straight into it. We're going to go all the way to Italy, first of all, to speak to Italian journalist Simone Dell'Uomo. Simone, how are you?
I'm fine, Chris. I'm fine, Craig. Delighted to be back on the show.
Simone, great to have you with us. How are you feeling about the appointment of Thomas Frank? Because I know that you had mixed feelings about Ange Postecoglou last season, but of course you, like all the rest of us, we were, ecstatic when we lifted the Europa League. But what do you make of this change?
First of all, I love Thomas Frank. It's my has always been my favorite since the last couple of seasons. I've been following his steps for many years from his times in Championship. So he's someone that I love. He's completely different from Ange Postecoglou because he's a complete manager. He knows how to prepare the game. He knows he's a proven Premier League manager. He knows how to adapt himself to the opponent. So it's a huge change. But to be honest, as well as all the fan base, I didn't like the way Big Ange has been treated. Because of course, my ideas about Ange Postecoglou. I've always been Ange out for many months last season. But when you write a page of history like that, winning a trophy, winning a European trophy, keeping him at the club would mean protecting the values of the club. So I didn't like the way he has been treated by the club, to be honest, once again. And I think that the history of this club now means those chins in I wrote season 3, and it's a pity. It's a pity that the season 3 has been cancelled because, of course, I was never a big fan of Ange Postecoglou, but at the end of the day, fair to say that he earned the right to fail in season 3. He deserved that season 3, even if the things would have gone in a good way, but he deserved totally. So this is a change. A change that probably was unfair, but I absolutely love Frank, and I absolutely love his human being. It's massive. It's very important. It's huge. His human being, because when you need to walk into a dressing room that still loves Ange Postecoglou, and in this couple of days, in this couple of weeks, we saw the players what they used to write in their social accounts. I think that it's massive to go and show yourself to a dressing room that clearly still loves Ange Postecoglou.
Do you think Frank is going to be a success at Tottenham, Simone?
If the board gives him the time he needs, I'm convinced that he's going to be extremely successful at Tottenham, Craig, because he's a complete manager. It's the next job. I absolutely prefer him on Iraola, above Marco Silva. So I think that he deserved that chance. So I strongly hope that it's going to be a perfect match, just like Christian Eriksen said a couple of days ago. I think that it's a brilliant appointment. I'm sure he's the perfect man. I'm sure he's a perfect manager for the job. I'm not sure about the timing, about the board, because of course, like I said, the dressing room is still thinking about Ange Postecoglou. The dressing room is still very much committed to the former manager. So it's not gonna be easy. And Postecoglou and Frank are two totally different profiles of managers.
Simone, last question for you. I know you keep your ear to the ground when it's to do with transfers. Now, 2 players I want to ask your opinion on very quickly. Heung-Min Son, we've seen reports today from Turkey linking him with a move to Fenerbahce for around 30 million euros, and also talking about Christian Romero. Do you think there's any chance of him leaving the football club this summer?
Yes, of course. We know that Cuti Romero probably has already spoken to Cholo Simeone, the manager of Atletico Madrid. Romero has always stated in the last couple of months that one day he would love to play in Spain. He won He won with Tottenham, so I think that it's in his mind is already ready for the next move. I would love him to stay, of course, because in the final as well, he showed to be a world-class defender. He's a leader. He's someone I would love to have by my side when I got to play some important games. Sonny is 33, he's 33. So after 10 years, he completed his dream. He completed his mission. So if he wants to change, if Thomas Frank want to work with young players to develop, maybe it's the right summer. Maybe it's the right time to see Sonny go. Sonny is a legend of the club. So I think that he absolutely earned the right to do whatever he wants for the future.
Have you heard anything concrete, Simone, about clubs interested in Son possibly this summer?
No. We know what you know, guys. So Saudi clubs, maybe something in America, but that's all. Today in Italy, we read like you the interest of Jose Mourinho. Of course, they had got huge relationship in the past during his time at Tottenham. Yeah. So let's see what's gonna happen.
Simone, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Craig. Always a pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you. Right, we're now going to go to Reece. Reece, evening to you. How are you?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Oh, Reece.
Very good. Reece, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
I think, like most Spurs fans, it's a little bit difficult, isn't it? It's, we've finally had a trophy for 17 years, European trophy for 40 odd years. And then, all of a sudden it's like splitting up with your partner where you just don't want it to happen. Then we've had another manager brought in and you're a little bit like, right, okay, Thomas Frank, who'd you bring in? Like, it's just a bit of I just don't know. I always remember going back to when Pochettino took us to the Champions League final and he started that following season not great and was sacked. I think we were in 13th place. Then you brought in Jose Mourinho and you think, oh, hello, there's pretty good guy that we're bringing in, proven winner wherever he's gone, always won a trophy wherever he's gone. Whereas this, we've won a trophy, we've now got into a settle-in period, and then we brought a new manager in, and it's not somebody of Jose Mourinho's caliber. And I just don't really know how I feel. I think we're banging the drum of, Ange Postecoglou, and I'm genuinely gutted that he's gone. Like, I really am gutted. The way that he conducted himself in media, I think you needed that spark as a Spurs manager a little bit, don't you? Because you don't really get the backing from the board. You don't really, especially squad depth this season just gone. It was borderline non-existent, really, was it? We spent the first 15 weeks of the season without our starting 11. So it's one of the very rare cases where a manager has prioritised a cup over the league. Obviously, we were dreadful in the league. There's no questions about it. But at least we won something. And I think that's the difficult bit of it, really.
How did you feel then about Frank coming in, Reece? Are you underwhelmed, overwhelmed, or is it about normal for Tottenham?
There's two trains of thought you can look at it. If he gets the backing from the board with the money that we've got from the Europa League, the money that we potentially got or going to get for the sale of Son, the big thing for Frank is he has got to calm that dressing room down straight off the bat. Every player, it's very rare that players will say or post on social media to say, gonna miss you, thanks for the opportunity. Most players don't really care. But as the amount of players that have expressed how gutted they are, Romero being the big one, and how long it took for him to release a statement, I think for me, I'm just completely underwhelmed. Not surprised, because it's, again, the board has just completely messed up. I think in general, I think you give Ange till Christmas at the very least, and then maybe reevaluate the decision. But then you've got the process of trying to eke out a manager from a club that's already in a contract midway through the season, and who's really going to take that? Let's be honest, we're not going to get anyone. So the time was probably right to do it. I'm not happy with it, but I think we just, as a Spurs, as a fan base as well, we just need to get on with it and just hope that the settling in period doesn't last 6 weeks into the season and we get the players that we need to just crack on.
Reece, in your opinion, what is the definition of backing Thomas Frank from now until the start of the season, when of course the season starts in the Premier League? I know the fixtures are out on Wednesday, but what do we need in terms of transfers? Because I feel like this is what we talk about a lot on this channel. A lot of fans come on and we always talk about transfers and backing the manager, not backing the manager, etc., about the players getting in. But, you know, Spurs have come out and said, you know, when they sacked Ange Postecoglou, we want to be fighting on all fronts. What do we need to be fighting on all fronts when that Premier League season starts, particularly given that we are now in the elite competition, the Champions League?
The simple thing is we need depth. We need depth. There's, you know, we need a little bit of experience, which we've got through players like Son, but Son's potentially going to move on. I like the idea of having the youngsters in there with, you know, Mikey Moore, Matthias Tell. I like Matthias Tell, but I want him to be played as, you know, a striker, but then that pushes out Solanke. I mean, just even if you look on confirmed squad players for next year, we've got, you know, 6 or 7 defenders. There's just no depth there. If you get 2 injuries out of them 6 or 7 defenders, you know, we're then relying on, you know, a sub-rate team, especially if we go up against, like, for example, the UEFA Super Cup. That is going to be a perfect example of where we sit as a club. We're coming up against probably one of the best teams in Europe, the best team in Europe right now, you know, with Variascalia, you know, all of them players. If we go out and get beat 6, 7, 8-0, as a Spurs fan, I'm going to be sitting there thinking on the first day of the season, oh, crikey, I think this is going to be another rough year. But if we go out, and even if we, you know, I want us to go and win without a doubt, but even if we go out and we get beat 2-3-0, but we play as a Tottenham side should do, as if we deserve to be there, I don't see why we couldn't, you know, compete in the Champions League in the future.
Yeah. Reece, some great points there. Thanks so much for joining us. I know this 5 minutes goes really, really quick when you're talking about Spurs.
Yeah,
so
does.
Thanks for joining us, and hopefully you can come back on again soon.
Thank you. Cheers, Chris. Cheers, Craig.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, Reece.
It does seem that the 5 minute timer now, Craig, it does seem to go very, very quick when we're talking about these particular subjects. We're going to go all the way to Congo now to talk to Hussein. Hussein, good evening. How are you?
Hey, Chris. Hey, Craig.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I think it's a little bit of time since we've spoken to you, and of course another managerial appointment, Thomas Frank, now coming in. What do you make of this news? Are you happy? Are you excited for the new season?
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think now that I've had time to think about it, and once the emotions go away, you start to think more analytically. Probably Thomas Frank is an upgrade on Ange, actually. I think.
Do you think?
I think we're emotionally we felt that Ange deserves a 3rd season because of the cup win. But if I look at it analytically, you look at our record, you look at our goal difference, what it was at Christmas, what it was at the end of the year. You look at the football that we were playing. I mean, there are reasons why he's not there.
I still think it's very mixed. The fan base is very, very mixed about Ange Postecoglou going. There's a comment here from BT Boy, and it says, "Oh my God, enough Ange talk now. Come on, Chris, ban it, please. Onwards and upwards." And I tell you what, on the Tottenham news videos recently, I've mentioned Ange Postecoglou a lot, and I get a lot of correspondence from Spurs fans, particularly when I do those episodes. And someone really told me off about the way that they thought that I really dismissed Ange Postecoglou, and like I've moved on really quick to talking about Thomas Frank and the future. But what do people want you to do? I respect Ange Postecoglou for what he's done. I feel like he can hold his head up high and go on to another job. Always delivers in his 2nd season, as he said, and he's done it at Spurs. He'll always go down as a legend at Tottenham. But ultimately, I'm not an Ange Postecoglou fan solely, or a one player. I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan, so you have to move on.
I agree.
We have to move on. Yeah,
we move on. we thank him for his service. He got us our cup, like he said he would. I personally wasn't happy with the way we played in the cup or in the season or in the league. I didn't think Ange Ball was a success at the club, and I'm ready to move on too. And I'm excited that we seem to have a proper coach who's gonna do well.
What makes you think Thomas Frank's going to do well, Hussein? What about him do you like?
The first game when they were in the Premier League, the way they played against Arsenal, if you remember that game. Yeah. I didn't know who he was until that game. I didn't, and since that game, I've always taken an interest in him. And I think he's someone who's flexible, who's shown that he can outcoach other teams. I never thought Ange outcoached the other side. I just thought that he just did what he did. And I think the way that he gets into detail reminds me of Poch as well and his team. So let's see.
Hussein, what do you make of the news of Matisse Tell signing a 6-year deal at Spurs? And we're also hearing that Manor Solomon wants to come back to Tottenham after his very successful loan spell at Leeds United. Frank wants to assess him. With this news, with those two players in particular, will this have any bearing on whether Spurs go out and sign another winger?
Yeah, I think he's a good player, but again, it's potential. Him and Odegaard are playing together quite well for the French under-21, but I don't think they're starters. I don't think, if I told you, would you like us to spend 70 million on Odegaard and Tell, or should we buy Eze? I think the answer is clear. So again, we've spent huge money on 4 or 5 young players who will take a few seasons to bed in. I think we need to do is spend some big money on 2 or 3 ready-made players.
Yeah, when you say it's clear, it won't be clear for some listening, so you'll need to spell it out.
Okay, well, I would take Eze over Odegaard and Tell any day.
What about
Heung-Min? I think they're going to go for a big money right winger, Buemo or otherwise. I don't think Eze is on the cards anymore if they've just bought Tell. And then I think we still need a 6, which they have to spend some money on. And then it will depend if Son and Richie go, then we will replace them with, I think, with experienced players as well.
Last question, Hussein. What about Heung-Min Son? You've mentioned him there.
Yeah.
Would you be happy to see him go?
I've come to terms. If he leaves, I have no problem. He's done everything for the club. He's leaving as a champion. He is 32. I don't think he wants to be part of another project and another rebuild. So I wouldn't hold it against him. I would give him my blessing.
Hussein, always such a great guest with great points. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right,
cheers.
Good luck.
Thanks, Hussein.
A really interesting comment here from Stephen. Thanks so much for all your comments. I am trying to read every single one of them, as well as listen and as well as asking the questions. But Stephen says here, time to drop the Ange talk. We have a new manager. Time to move on. I'll tell you what, for those people that don't like talking about Ange Postecoglou, I don't think that anyone's ever going to stop talking about Ange, because of course he's rubbing shoulders with Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw, being one of the only 3 men to have guided and lifted a European trophy at the football club. So, you know, for those people that don't like talking about Ange Postecoglou, it's here forever. We'll always be talking about Ange, always. Right, we're now going to go to Noel in Ireland. Noel, how are you?
Very good, Chris. Craig, yourself?
Very good.
How you doing,
very good.
Noel?
Noel, great to have you here. How's your week been?
Very good, Chris. The weather's fantastic here today, so I've been trying to swat up on Spurs news, but there's so much of it. I really can't digest it all.
I know.
There's so much. I actually saw that. I saw that comment that somebody was slagging you off about Postecoglou, you know. So I actually replied to it and said that was total rubbish, you know. So
listen, yeah. I know a few people who had a couple of digs at me this week saying that I've moved on really quickly because I was upset when Ange Postecoglou went out the door. But
absolutely,
you know what do people want you to do? Sit about moping for weeks and months? You know, we need to move on, and you know it's not my decision. It's not going to be your decision or any other fan's decision. It's a decision of the board. We can't do anything about it. We have to, park emotions sometimes. I do feel upset in a way that, you know, the club have stopped posting pictures and videos of the success of the Europa League, and I do feel like, you know, it's kind of just parked and sort of swept under the carpet that we've just won the Europa League. That's what upsets me a little bit. But Postecoglou, as I mentioned, and I will always mention Postecoglou for delivering success, you know, something that he hasn't done. Something he has done that, you know, most others haven't. So no one can ever take that away from him. That's the point. But no, the time is ticking. Heung-Min Son, I want to talk about. What do you think the future holds for Son? He was very sheepish in his answer about his future the other day when he, you know, after the South Korea Kuwait game. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Sonny is going to be lining up for Spurs at the start of next season, or do you feel like this is his last summer at Tottenham?
Well, the way I see it, Chris, is always money always talks. And if somebody's going to give you 30 million for a 32-year-old, I think Daniel Levy would take it, you know, and Son would go with his all our blessings, you know. I would love him to stay for another season, see it out and see how far he could take us. But I think with that type of money on the table, it could be crucial. And it would give you a lot of money, maybe to, you know, more money to spend and to reshape the team. I'm not sure that's the sort of money that Fenerbahce would pay. You know, I think it's maybe a bit of lazy journalism. I'm not really sure, but I'd love him to stay for another season. We all love Sonny.
What about Richarlison, Noel? Would you keep Richarlison around, or if an offer came in for him, wouldn't mind seeing Richarlison go?
I actually think he did well in the last few games. You know, Postecoglou, talking about Ange again, seemed to trust him, you know, and did play him in the final. And I think there's a player there, but, you know, he's never really had an opportunity at Spurs because, you know, he came in, he was never going to replace Harry Kane. His primary role is a striker. He was never going to get that job. And then he gets a few injuries, and then Solanke's in that spot. He's not a winger, you know. Would he be happy to stay as backup striker again? I'm not so sure, but I think I'd probably keep him for another season. I think you're going to really need, unless they have somebody, a really good forward, you know, up their sleeve, you know, maybe somebody, you know, that can dovetail a bit better with a bigger striker like Solanke. Maybe that's the way they might go. But, you know, I think he's not bad. He's improving all the time. A bit Langley and a bit, sometimes, you know, he's a bit over theatrical. But he did score a few goals, you know, when he did get that number one striking role. So, you know, there is a player there somewhere. It just hasn't come out yet.
Now, I'm going to probably ask a lot of guests this evening, and I'm going to start with you. What do Spurs need to do to make you feel extremely confident in going into the new season, fighting on all fronts? What do they need to do squad-wise in terms of, you don't need to give me players, but positions? Where do we need to strengthen on that pitch?
Well, I think we actually need somebody that's back up as left back. You know, I don't think Spencer's done well there, but I don't think he's a left back. I'd like to see, you know, a good left back coming in. And I think everybody else has said it, you know, a number 6, you know, somebody strong, you know, somebody that can protect the ball, you know, maybe like an Adam Wharton, not sure you'll get him, but somebody of that ilk, you know, that we haven't had that player for a long time. We always come back, a Graham Roberts type player for the older supporters, somebody a bit more creative and an extra striker. So I'm thinking 4 players, and, you know, get your squad sorted early. You know, okay, you know, they've already spent a bit of their money. They spent on Danso and Tell. Tell doesn't really, I think Craig, actually, looking at something you were saying earlier today, he doesn't really have excite me too much. Well, maybe there's a player there, you know, and maybe that, you know, he was being thrust in, and, you know, times were bad, and, you know, he didn't really get a chance, but maybe, possibly. But that's what I'm thinking, Chris, 4 players and shift out who you don't need. And and I think there's a good season ahead.
No, as per normal, you're a great guest, great points. Thank you so much, and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. See you, Craig.
Cheers.
Cheers, Noel. Take care.
We've had some great comments in tonight. William writes here, the new manager will produce a team that is hard to beat, though will not produce a team that wins. Expect a lot of draws. We need 10 and 8 that can score goals. Paul Kins writes here, now it is about the board members backing Frank and sign some top players this summer. For me, I'd personally want a top striker signed this summer to help and challenge Dominic Solanke. Right, let's go to the next guest, and we're going to go to the USA and talk to Matt. Matt, great to have you with us. How are you?
How you doing, gents? Hey, happy Father's Day to both of you.
And you.
Hi,
and you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying it so far, man. It's a great conversation that you guys are having, and happy to be part of it again. So,
Matt,
I just want to kind of start it real quick.
Go for it.
I question. I have no doubt that Frank is a great manager, and he's going to do good things for us because he's going to solidify a lot of the areas. He's going to pinpoint our weaknesses, really kind of like fix those up, and like one of your previous guests said before, turn those losses into draws, and that's all well and good. I mean, that's great, but again, like I got to make the statement, man. It's like, what is the game about if not glory, right? Like, we get this trophy in the first European trophy in the 41 years, and he will be, and like it's the first one since like General Birkinshaw back in '84, and we're just so easily to, like you said, brush it under the rug, and even the website is like kind of like not really emphasizing it anymore. And I know you got to move on. It's your job. You have to cover these things. You have to move on. But I mean, us fans, we have to hold on to this for a little bit because we've been carrying those scars for so long. Those like 30, 40, 41 years of like pain and suffering, 17 years. I mean, I haven't held it for 41 years. I mean, but like for at least a good 25, 30 years, I've had like that 2008 glory. That was it. And it's really just terrible that we've so quickly moved on. Now, that being said, we can go back to Thomas Frank. I think he's a great appointment. I think he's going to do good things, but there's a lot of concerns about the board. Will he get that support? Will he be given time? As you know, anybody who's done any type of research can see his starts at his last two clubs, Brøndby and Brentford, were not good. In Brøndby, I believe he lost 8 of his first 10. At Brentford, he lost his first 8. We all know Spurs managers do not have that type of time. I mean, we know very much well, regardless of whatever player, coach it is, you do not have that time. You do not survive that. But if somehow everything works out and Thomas Frank stays around, I think he can stabilize the club. But that's my concern. You're stabilizing a club that just won a trophy. Why do you want to, like, don't you want to reach higher? Don't you want to, like, try for more? Like, hey, we got a taste of this. This is like, hey, filet mignon. This is delicious. Let me get some more of that. No, I don't want Salisbury steak anymore. I don't want, like, Outback Steakhouse. What are we talking about here? So I'm sorry. I just had to dump that out real quick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Matt, why do you think the club have given him a 3-year contract? Do you think that, am I reading something into that, or why do you think they've done that? Why do you think it's 3 years?
I'm not really sure. I know Ange was the 3+1. I think Nuno was only 18 months, maybe 2 years. Conte was the 6 month with the extension. I don't know, Craig. That's a really good question, and it's like, why?
What's wrong with 3 years, Craig?
It seems weird.
What's wrong with 3 years?
Because if they want somebody to come in and do a project, it's going to take longer than 3 years. So why not give him 4 or 5 years?
But I think they think that the project started 2 years ago under Postecoglou. We're 2 years in. He's taken over the project, isn't he not?
Should have stuck with him then. If the project's only halfway through, they should have stuck with Postecoglou. That's
exactly.
That's what I don't get.
Thomas Frank.
Yeah. Do you know
Thomas Frank Thomas Frank is this poor bastard walking into it like, hey, I got some time, right? And they're like, not really.
The thing is, I can see why they've appointed him. I definitely can, because the job that he's done at Brentford and the way that he's improved players and the way that he has helped identify really good players for Brentford as well. And they're so hardworking. And I've quite often said this in the last couple of days, like they are unsung heroes for that Brentford side. They're not superstars. And I feel like he can get a lot out of these players. And Absolutely. I also feel, Matt, that we can talk literally for hours and days about the Postecoglou situation, because there are a lot of Spurs fans. I know a lot of people don't like to hear it. The ones that would just say, move on, that's it. But they don't want to hear about, the good work that Postecoglou started, didn't have European football. It's funny because I feel like I say a lot of things good about Postecoglou, but I've also said a lot of things where he could have improved. And I get shot down, because I'm not, well, I don't know whether it's about taking sides, because people say, oh, are you Ange in or are you Ange out? I'm never in or out. I just see the good and I see, and I criticize the bad. So because I say it all, I get shot down by both sets of people who are in and out, you see. So you can never win. But I just feel like when you've got to give someone credit for delivering you a trophy, you have to give them credit. But as soon as I give credit like that, people then say, but what about the 22 league defeats? And what about this? And what about... Of course, I didn't enjoy any of those 22 league defeats, I must tell you. But I tell you what, that parade and the night in Bilbao was simply sensational. But as I say, you can talk about this subject for literally hours and days going round in circles. But us as a fan base, emotion... for fans, and we're all emotional fans. That is what football is about. You have to park it sometimes, and you have to move on very, very quickly, and then you have to look at the manager that is about to take charge of the football club, and then we talk about how he can move on. And my biggest question at the moment, Matt, and let me ask you this: what's going to be different this time? Because 18 different managers now in 24 years. Postecoglou delivered a trophy. What message is that sending to some of the players, stating that, you win a trophy and then your manager gets sacked? What message is that sending to the new manager coming in? What expectations do the board have of that new manager? And also, let me ask you, what is your expectations of the manager, and what is your expectations of this new season? What will be a good season for you?
That was a very good question.
There's a lot there. Yeah.
That's a lot there. But you know what? It's a very good question. Multiple layers. I agree with what you were saying before. I feel like you get bashed over the head anytime you say something positive about the man. I mean, the duality of man, you can see the good and the bad, and just realize that overall it was a great experience at the end. Now, what do I expect going forward? What can be different and things like this? To be honest, it's all unstable. This is all strange areas for strange happenings. How many clubs sack a European winning manager and then have their star come out less than 56 minutes later to make this post with these obstacles? That was thinly veiled. It's very strange, guys. I wish I could give you a nice straight answer. What do I expect from Thomas Frank and Spurs going forward for this season, at least? Just some kind of stability, I guess, maybe ending up 7th, 8th, 6th, something in that range. But again, where is that progress? Is it good? Is it bad? I'm not really sure. Having tasted that glory, most of my other sports teams don't win anything. So this is the little bit of joy I got. And that one night, I remember it. I remember every moment. I remember the parade. I remember watching it on replay. I mean, that'll never be taken away. So, but what is progression? I don't know. In Levy's eyes, it's one thing. In fans' eyes, it's another thing. In the media, it might be a tertiary thing. I mean, it's strange. I guess I just want to see some more competitiveness and maybe some development of the kids. I'd really be interested in seeing Gray move on, how he does more. Bergville, another season of him. Tell is a very good addition. I think. I'm sorry. I know I'm taking a lot of time here. Matthias Tell, I think he's going to play up front with Solanke, because I know Frank likes to play two men up front in his system. I think that might be that new big and small combination like we used to see with Peter Crouch and Jermaine Defoe. I think he has Matthias Tell has a lot of similarities in Jermaine Defoe's play. But yeah, I think going forward, we just got to kind of just know that this is unfamiliar grounds. We kind of don't know how it goes, and take it one game at a time, and just back the players, back the manager, do what we can. But it's still very strange, man. I'm sorry.
Matt, I could talk to you all night. Thank you so much. And that was my fault running over, because I know I asked you about 4, 5, 6 questions at once. So apologies. So,
right.
but there's always a lot to talk about. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Again, happy Father's Day.
Cheers, Matt. Speak to you soon. Right, we're now going to go to Luke. Luke, good evening to you. How are you?
I'm grand. How you doing?
All good, Luke. So, Matisse Tell, 6-year contract. Manor Solomon coming back to Spurs. Thomas Frank wants to look at him. What do you make of this news? And also, what do you make of the news about Son possibly leaving this summer?
I think it makes sense that a new manager would want to assess players, particularly someone who we can probably see that he himself has differences to the way Postecoglou approaches things. So, yeah, it makes sense for him to give people a chance. And, you know, Manor Solomon had a good season in the Championship last year, so it's possible that he might be able to bring something. I just don't think we've ever seen him do anything in a Spurs shirt, really, have we? Even though he has played a handful of games. So I do have the feeling that although he's probably given him a fair crack to show himself, I think he'll probably be out the door pretty quickly. And by the sounds of it, there's people that would want him. The same with Son. I think I agree with what people have said so far. It's almost the perfect time for him to leave. I was thinking earlier today, actually, about how many really great Spurs players who we've all loved who have gone for either free or for very little. If he went for 30 million, I think that would be a bonus on top of the fact that he's leaving as a massive legend. So, yeah, I think that would probably be good timing. And Tell, I'm quite impressed with what they got for him in the end. I agree with Craig that maybe could have knocked a bit off, maybe a bit more than that. But the fact that Bayern started at 60 and we've got them down to slightly less than half that was pretty classic Daniel Levy, isn't it, really?
The thing with me, Luke, and I have said this before, a club like Bayern, if they rated a player to be, say, Harry Kane's, the next Harry Kane, if you like, they would not be selling Matisse Tell. They'd be looking to loan him, but they're quite happy to sell him. That's why I think, I just, you know, Bayern have obviously seen a lot more of him than we have, and they just probably don't think that Tell is good enough to make it. So I know it's different, horses for courses, different clubs, blah, 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 but I just haven't seen enough from him in 6 months. And I think 6 months is a long enough time.
Can I add on to that as well, Luke? Because would you have preferred us to have put this money elsewhere towards like an Eze instead, to have bought like in an experienced player? Because I know, you know, when you look at the rumours now about Son going and, you know, Tell coming in and Manor Solomon coming back, of course, a lot of Spurs fans will feel and think, well, does this mean that we're not now going to go and sign that experienced winger, that experienced player that, you know, let's face it, we desperately need experience in this squad to really kick us on?
Well, weirdly enough, it seems like Son might be leaving for the exact same amount of money that Tell is coming in for. And I don't really believe in coincidences. So I think that could be something, there could be something going on there, that they know how much they're going to get for Son. And if Tell's coming in on the same side, he's a sort of left-sided winger, isn't he? It makes sense that they're sort of paying out the same amount they're going to get in. But it's the sort of thing you have to wait until the transfer window closes, because they could shock us and, you know, approach an Eze or and Buemo, and we'd be thinking, fantastic, they got the money for both. But they could get to the end of the window, not get that player, and then we realise it was because they put the money into Tell, and all of a sudden, Tell seems like a waste of that money. So I think we unfortunately have to wait and see. But I take your point, Craig. But I think from the experience of Bayern Munich, is I don't know, I can't think of them ever developing a young player. Might be wrong. But what they tend to do is let the other German clubs do it, and then they pay them to bring them in. So I don't think that Bayern have got the time or the patience to develop young players, whereas I think it's definitely part of the kind of approach that Tottenham are going for with the players that we bought in the last couple of windows. We definitely prefer to develop younger players.
That's Luke, a good point, actually. That is a good point, Luke. Yeah.
Look, with Tell, do you think that do you think he can play alongside Dominic Solanke in a different system under Thomas Frank? And from what you've seen of him so far, what do you think his best position can be or should be? Because I know when we signed him in the January transfer window on loan, Sky Germany were urging Spurs to play him as a striker and not as a winger.
Yeah, but do you remember who the fella was that was saying that?
Yeah.
Do you remember who he was? He was the one who held up the Harry Kane Munich
It
shirt, wasn't he?
It wasn't.
Was it not him?
They do look alike, but it's not him.
Someone told me it was him, and I thought, well, he can get stuffed with his opinions.
Yeah, they do look alike.
They do actually, don't they?
They do look alike. Yeah.
I don't know the other guy's name, but yeah, they do. Yeah.
Well, I think that he had some good moments up the left in some of the games he played. But the thing you have to remember about the chances he got last season, he was often coming on in games where we were really struggling, or he was starting in games where we were really struggling. We clearly rotated heavily to protect the first team players for the Europa League. So I don't know if the chances he got last year were particularly fair sort of, measure of what he's like. But he's quick, he's got some pace, and Thomas Frank is the perfect manager, I think, really to get the best out of him. And if the information we've heard recently is true, he was interested in, or he was the one that pushed for him to actually be signed. So yeah, I think he could work really well, but I don't think he's the long-term replacement. Well, he might be the long-term or the future replacement for Son, but he's not the immediate replacement for Son. I think if you think about Son's output, last year wasn't great. The year before that, though, and the year before that, I don't think Tell's going to suddenly come in and start producing the same numbers as Son, which is a worry, which means that we need to get someone else in, which pushes Tell onto the bench, which would be a great example of building a squad, right? You pay 30 million for a talented youngster, then you buy someone else who's got more experience, who starts above them, and you start giving that youngster a chance. But I just don't know. Just with this club, I don't hold my breath.
Well, we look forward to the rest. Go on, Craig.
Sorry. Last question, Luke. Just very quickly, Yves Bissouma. Do you want to see Yves Bissouma stay, or wouldn't you care if he departed Tottenham?
It's a funny one, isn't it? I would be fine if he left. One of the things I think about Bissouma is he's one of many players we've seen over the years who, when he's on his day, he's unstoppable. And I remember that those first 10 games under Ange, he was sort of steaming across the midfield and winning the ball off people, and he was brilliant. And then he just has these games where, Ange said it himself, he just sort of lets the game completely pass him by. And I think across the 38-game season where we could end up, we're going to play a minimum, I think, of it's over 50 games, isn't it, at minimum next year. He has to show up every week, and I just don't think he's shown that he can. He's talented, but unfortunately not consistent enough. So I'd be happy to see him go. So yeah, a bit of a shame, but hopefully they could get some good money for him.
Luke, always such a great guest.
That reporter's name is Max Schrader. His name is the one that looks like Pletty Goal.
I'm going to go and memorise his face.
Yeah.
Luke, thanks a lot, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye.
Cheers.
See you, Luke. Ta-da.
King Hoddle writes here, I think Matisse Tell might eventually become a number 9. He's still very young and has a lot to learn. It's very true, Craig, isn't it? He does have a lot to learn, but I feel like there is something there. But at the same time, I feel like these past windows, we've gone down that route of signing the players for the future. And I don't know, I just want to see those players for now. I want to see those players literally walk in and walk through into the starting 11 and, be impact players straight away and hit the ground running. That's what I feel like this window is about.
I agree. And look, I'm not going to sit here and slam Tell and slam Solomon and whatever, but you have to ask, would they start in a PSG or a Manchester City or whatever? Probably good squad players, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? But I make you right, 100%. We need ready now strength, Champions League strength players. Definitely.
Yeah. Right, we're now going to go to Darren. Darren, evening. How are you?
Good afternoon, evening, gentlemen. Not too bad. What about yourselves?
All good, thank you. Darren, how are you feeling ahead of the new season? I know we're a couple of months away, but what are your expectations for this window? And now that Thomas Frank has been officially appointed, what do you think that he will want when he looks at this Tottenham Hotspur squad? And I must say that he has been very complimentary about the squad, you know, when he was Brentford manager last season in the press conferences. But when he looks at this squad, what sort of tweaks do you think he'll make? And what do you think he needs? And what will be on his to-do list, you know, before the season starts?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I think one of the things that I hear you say a lot, and I agree with you, you kind of need like two players for each position, and so that's probably something that's going to be in his mind. But the other thing is we don't really know exactly how he's going to line up, and we know that he can play a variety of different formations, including like 3 at the back, 4 at the back. We don't know who's in and out, so it's really difficult to call at the moment. I think what will be interesting, what I'm looking for is when the transfer window reopens, are Spurs going to go out and get business done early? Because I think that will be the key. That will tell us really what's going on, who's coming in, and who is kind of pulling the strings there. And I would have to feel like for Thomas Frank to come in, he's really got to have some assurances that, you know, he's going to have big input in the players coming in. I think Matisse Tell was probably sort of, as you guys have said already, a bit of a done deal. So that's a club signing. But I don't think Frank would be too upset about that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be key, like these next week or two, to see what happens. And that will give us probably a better picture of what we can and should expect.
Darren, which players do you think are not going to do or not going to be not keen to play under Frank, but which sort of players do you think Frank probably likely don't mind if we sell? Can you think of anybody off the top of your head?
I mean, Son Heung-Min is a really interesting one because I'm kind of going back and forth with him because I think he might actually be able to do very well under Frank because of the way Frank will deploy him. I think he might ask him to make more like runs into the box, so he's not going to be expected to be like a dribbling winger or anything. You know, we always said way back when that Son wasn't really a Postecoglou winger, but he might actually be better suited for Frank. So that's an interesting one. But on the other hand, I kind of agree with everyone else. Like, Son's best years are probably behind him. He's a club legend. He's won a trophy. It's a great opportunity for him to sort of ride out on a high, you know, ride off into the sunset.
Is he still not one of our best players though, Darren? I must admit, I'm surprised on how many people are coming out and saying, you know, offload Son now.
I mean, he's got talent. We know that. You know, we know he's a world-class player, but I think this season showed the legs are starting to go a little bit. He's not as good as he once was. I think like a lot, they often you get comparisons between him and like Mohamed Salah, for example. I saw like a chart the other day of Mohamed Salah's goals, and his goals were sort of going down, and then this previous season now he's kind of like way back up there, and he had a fantastic season. And maybe it's a bit unfair to judge Son on the last season, but yeah, I kind of have this nagging feeling that his best years are behind him, sadly. But at the end of the day, he's still a legend. I mean, I think there isn't a Spurs fan who would say anything different. He's a club legend, that's it. But I don't think I think it's okay to let him move on. I'd rather see him move now on a high than just go downhill.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree there. Do you? Something I've been thinking about the last few days, Darren. I could actually see Frank employing 3 at the back and you know, dispatching Udogie and Porro as wing backs. To be honest, perhaps play Danso, Romero, and Van der Ven. Could you see it happening? Do you think you could make such a radical change to go 3 at the back?
Yeah, I think he could, but he's going to want to come in and figure out, does that make sense in the short term? That might be something that he would want to do in the long term. I don't know. It might not make sense in the short term with the squad that we have, because then you kind of have very limited backup right now. I don't know when Dragusin is supposed to come back, but we really got not many options there. I'm not sure what's happening with Ashley Phillips either. He just seems to be going out on perpetual loans, and then that means you got like Ben Davies. So I'd be a bit nervous about deploying a back three with our current squad, but it might be the case that it's useful against certain opponents. Might make sense to do that. So
yeah,
who knows?
Darren, last question for you. What must Spurs do as an absolute minimum in this window? How many players do you think that Spurs need to bring in?
Oh, as a minimum, I think you're looking at maybe three players. You definitely want another defender. We want somebody in midfield, and then probably a reliable backup for Solanke. But again, it goes back to who's going out the door as well, because if we've got more players going out of the door, then we're going to need more players coming in as well. And we still don't have really a backup for Udogie. We talk about Spence, but I consider Spence a backup for Porro. So there are gaps there for sure. Even if we have the status quo and sort of no one's going out the door, but there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
Darren, thanks so much for joining us. Always enjoy talking to you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers, gents. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Thanks,
you, Darren.
Right, we're now going to go to another Darren, our friend Darren Altman. Darren, how are you?
Hello. That was quick. I'm rocking my new my Father's Day present, Chris.
We love it. We love it.
Look at this.
Love it.
Present?
The last time
That's
we won the FA Cup.
Yep, absolutely. There you go. And one of the goals was an own goal. So there you go. Let me just turn
Good old Des. Good old Des.
Let me just turn the US Open down for you, Chris. Hold on.
Darren, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? Of course, it's been another, newsworthy week. Thomas Frank taking over from Postecoglou. Matisse Tell signing on a 6-year deal. Reports today stating that Son might be on his way out of Tottenham to go to Turkey to reunite with Ange Postecoglou, Jose Mourinho. What do you make of all of this news? Let's start with Tell. Tell on a 6-year deal. How are you feeling about it?
Listen. As I said in our little group, when we signed Bentancur and Kulusevski, they were Juventus rejects. I remember. I think it was it Simone?
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, listen, guys. They're no bloody good, guys. I'm telling you, guys. And look at what they've become.
Not an upgrade on Harry Winks, I think was the expression, wasn't it?
Yes, there you go. Yeah. So, so listen, I don't know. He's not a world beater, but why don't we give him a chance? I'm excited about Solomon, actually. I know you haven't asked me that, but I want to see him have a chance because I was pretty impressed with the way he plays. And I know your opinions, Chris, you're a bit nonplussed by him.
It's not that, Darren, right? We've just won the Europa League. The way that I see this is that whenever we're linked to a player coming in, or whenever I think of a player coming back from loan, I think to myself, how are they going to fare against one of the top teams in Europe, i.e. the Champions League? Are they going to be doing well against the likes of Real Madrid, against a Liverpool, against an Inter Milan, and so on, rather than playing Premier League games, League Cup, or whatever? I just expect the best. I want the best for the football club.
I know, and I get it, and I understand it, and I'm not saying you're wrong. But look at how Spence performed for us last season. He was nearly out the door. They nearly washed their hands of Spence, but he's become a great player for us. Who knows? Let me preempt a few questions that you're going to ask me, but by saying I completely agree. We need marquee signings. We need proven Premiership players, as you love to say, and we can't compete in the Champions League as we are now. We just haven't got the depth. So, I get it. I do understand.
Darren, a lot of talk at the moment around Vuskovic and what a player he's going to be. Obviously, still very young. Obviously, the centre back that's been on loan for the last seems like 10 years, but he's probably only 2.5, 3 years. How do you know much about him? Have you heard the hype around him?
No, I'd be lying if I said I did. I mean, I know the hype. They were saying he's better than, who is it, Guardiola, or they were saying
Guardiola. They're comparing him to the next Guardiola. So
that's as much as I've known. But I mean, that's hearsay. I don't really know anything about him. And whether Frank will bring him in and give him a go, I don't know. I'm a bit ambivalent, Craig, to be honest, about him. I've got no opinion. I haven't really seen him play, so I can't really comment, I'm afraid. Yeah, but
he's a bit of a beast. Apparently, he's huge. I think he's about 6'4". He's built like a brick outhouse. I won't use the more common expression, but he's scored a fair few goals this season. I think he's left-footed, so that would work with Van der Ven. I don't know, but I'm quite excited to see him in pre-season. Yeah, and if he gives Tell a chance, he's bringing Solomon back in, so he's going to give him a chance. I mean, you know what it's like. Any team, not just Spurs. Pre-season, new manager. It's almost like a clean slate. For Frank. Obviously, he knows Spurs from what he's seen in the Premier League and the teams that he's had to come up against. But it is, as far as Frank is concerned, a clean slate. So he can do what he wants. He can pick who he wants. He can dump who he wants. And we start again. And the good thing is that those that have been on the fringes really get a chance to prove themselves. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's tricky. I thought Ange deserved at least until January. I really did, just to carry on the high. All the players showed their love for him. They couldn't believe what they'd achieved. He's the one who got them there. All right, the league form was absolutely atrocious, but would he have learnt from the way he played in Europe? We don't know. And the thing is, guys, we'll never know. We'll never know because he's gone now. So, it is what it is. As our friend Gary likes to say, yeah, it is what it is. But I thought he deserved at least until Christmas. I thought he deserved until January. Let's see where we are. If we're languishing and it's still not working in the Premier League, then thanks ever so much. You're a club legend. Off you go. And who knows, if we were mid-table and knocking on the door of Champions League positions, who knows? We'll never know. We'll never know.
Darren, lastly, of course, the last 7 years, Thomas Frank has been the Brentford manager, and he's been very comfortable in that role. And he's done some fantastic job. Fantastic job in the last 4 years in the Premier League. And a very interesting stat: he has never ever had Brentford in that relegation zone, particularly the low budgets that he's been given. But we all know as Spurs fans, the job at Spurs is very, very different to any other club, particularly a club like Brentford. And I don't mean that disrespectfully towards any club at all. It's going to be a very, very different pressure as well for him. And it's fair to say that all of us have seen a manager coming in, and the first press conference, they are all full of smiles. And within 3 months, they look like, they've gone through, every season,
Yeah, I know. As Sting so poignantly said, all 4 seasons in a day. I know.
There you go. That's the term I needed. All 4 seasons in a day. And then it's bloody hell, what the hell's happened? So
here's 2 words for you. Ange Postecoglou. 1 minute he was, you're not entertained, mate. That's who we are. And the next minute he's snapping and griping at, absolutely. You're right. And I've heard you say this before, Chris, when you've had chats and you've been interviewed. Bloody hell, by the way, my God, you've been doing the rounds. I mean, I think, there's a train crash in Saudi Arabia. We now go live to Chris Cowlin for his opinion. The Nikkei Dow index is down 3,000 points. We now cross live to Chris Cowlin for his, unbelievable. I don't know how you do it.
And we're on holiday season. We're meant to be relaxing.
I know. It's ridiculous. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, Chris. And it's going to be what's the expression? Not a shock, a baptism of fire. Thank you. It will be. But by all accounts, as I'm sure we've all heard, read, seen, no one's got a bad word to say about him, actually. No one. Whether he's teammates, ex-players, people in the press, media that I've had to deal with, no one has got a bad word to say about him, which bodes really well. Apparently, he's a really good in the dressing room. He gets to know people. He's got a really good relationship. There was that story of when Ivan Toney was on his ban, he got him in for a one-on-one and said, not only did he say make plans to bring him back in the Brentford fold and where he would see him and what he wanted to do with him, he would check in on him mentally and say, how you doing? So he seems like he's a really good person. Tactically, he's very different. If I can, I think I've closed the thing. He'll play like 3-5-2. I mean, he swaps it all around, all of his positions, his tactics. He adapts. He's very flexible. He's very adaptable. Who knows? Why are you laughing?
I'm not. I love the enthusiasm. I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right.
We can only be enthusiastic. We can't shit on the guy before he hasn't stepped through the door. So who knows? We just don't know. We just don't know.
Well, no one has, Darren, because no one has said a bad word. I think the closest of bad words against him has been from Chris Sutton, who has come out and said that, he'll need to get off to a good start. He'll need to get off to a winning start because the pressure will be on him. And I completely agree with that because, particularly as we've tasted the European success now, and we want to kick on. We want to win another trophy. We were all at that parade, all three of us, and we want to taste that again, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. We were hanging out together and it was the most unbelievable experience. But unfortunately, whether you like it or not, the stats bear out that he doesn't start well or he hasn't started well. But having said that, we could all sit here and name managers and Premiership legends, heroes that didn't start well. Gareth Bale couldn't score for love nor money. What was the thing about Harry Kane? Was it Gareth Bale never scores in August or was it Harry Kane? Never scored. Harry Kane, Ferguson had an abysmal start at United. There's so many examples of that. So I mean, if we didn't, do well in the first 5, 6, 7 games, I'm not going to start crying because he needs to get used to it.
Darren, lastly, can we hear from Boris on what he makes of the Thomas Frank appointment?
Oh, listen, but just like Ange Postecoglou, Boris has long gone, mate. You need to get over it. Honestly, I mean, I love you like a brother. You need to get. You can't poke the bear.
Any new ones? Any new ones want to talk about Thomas Frank?
Thomas Frank. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me work on my Thomas Frank. I'll check out a few of his interviews and I'll come back with my interpretation. Okay. It was at that point that Darren went to make himself a cup of tea. Is that the thing you do? Do you log in and do the media rounds? Is that what you do? Some people might say that's a bit weird. Going on the BBC, then talk sport, Chris. Bit weird. Anyway, bye-bye.
Nice to see you. Thanks, Darren.
Guys, love the work, guys. Love it. Guys, I see you. I'm going on for my gnocchi. Guys, bye-bye.
We love the shirt, by the way. Thanks, Darren. God, it's all serious, and then Darren Altman comes on. Right, let's go back to serious. We're going to go to Czech Republic. Steve, how are you?
I'm totally knackered.
What you been up to, Steve?
I ran a
half marathon
yesterday. Yesterday. Yeah, I managed to take 7 minutes off my old time, which means I wasn't doing very well last year. But no, really pleased. It was bloody hot though.
So anyway. another medal in the Tottenham fan base.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to wear it, but it's a bit much, and it's just a half marathon medal. It's nothing important. But yeah,
well done.
It was a good day. Anyway, let's get on with the football.
Steve, let's get on with the football. Are you here to talk to us, or do you want us to ask you questions?
Are you two going to disappear again and just leave me on the show like last time? you deleted yourselves last time. I thought that was brilliant.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah,
far away. Far away. If you want some, go on.
Heung-Min Son, club legend. Does he go out lifting that Europa League trophy, or does he want more at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club?
I think personally, it's the best thing for him to do. I love him to bits, Sonny. You know, like most Tottenham fans. But I do think leave on a high. It will literally be a miracle if he manages to lift anything else so early with the new manager, but could be proved wrong. So I, like a lot of people have mentioned, I don't have a problem with him leaving. So yeah, he can go, and with my blessing, you know what I mean. Yeah.
What about Bentancur, Steve? Would you? I mean, I know there's rumours he's signed a new contract. I don't think he has so far, but if an offer came in.
I don't know with him. I really liked him, and I do like the way he plays. He does get stuck in. I think after one of the injury he had, he sort of was never the same player. But I do like the way he closes people down in the middle of the park. We don't really have anyone in the middle of the park who sticks their foot in. So I'd give him another chance under the new manager, under Frank, see if he can do something with him and give him a definite position, if you know what I mean, within the midfield. Yeah, I'd probably hang on to him. Yeah, no players. As we're going in players to sell, you know, there's all this who to go and who to stay. Dragusin, I mean, he's having talks with AC Milan. I don't think he's going to make it. I've seen enough of Richarlison. I think he's had enough time. And no, I know Davis has just signed a new contract, but I think that's probably to enable us to get a bit more money for him. I think he's been a great servant, but. I wouldn't mind if he went. And Bissouma as well, as somebody mentioned, he just blows hot and cold all the time. So,
Steve, I think my next question is going to blow up the comment section now. I'm going to ask you: would you take 22 league defeats again under Thomas Frank this coming season to finish 17th, just above the relegation zone, to win the FA Cup?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's definitely going to blow up now.
Yeah, you traitor, Cowlin. Smirk, you traitor. Yeah, I know it's going to be all that. No, we've been starved of it so much. If it had been a case, every 3-4 years we were picking something up, a Carabao Cup here, an FA Cup here, then maybe. But we've always been a cup side, as I said in an email I wrote to you a little while back. A little bit delusional. I know we come close a few times with Pochettino being like second, third, and fourth in the league and fifth and all the rest of it. But there's something about a cup run. I mean, FA Cup, yeah, Carabao Cup, no, that wouldn't do it for me. FA Cup, or obviously we're not going to win the Champions League, but good run in that. Yeah, that was a bit of a question, wasn't it, Chris? Why did you give it to me?
There's a lot of yeses and there's a lot of nos. It's very mixed.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I'll tell you, players, we're talking about people coming in. I've read about this Tyler Diblin instead of Mbeumo. If we can't get Mbeumo. I've looked at his statistics: 33 appearances, 2 goals, no assists last season. Key passes less than 1 a game. I mean, sorry, I've watched him, and when I watched him, when he was playing during the season, I thought, oh, he's interesting. Always had his socks rolled down, and a lot of dribbling around and stuff. But not actually, no assists and no goals. I mean, like you said as well, we're going to go in. We're in the Champions League. We need to be signing people who can strengthen the squad, and I totally agree with you. So, Eza, obviously, people are banding his name about. I don't know if we'll get him at the back. Branthwaite, Gear, maybe Nathan Collins. So just got to keep our fingers crossed and hope that the purse strings are loosened and they start to actually. Give Thomas Frank the ammunition that's required. Why are you smiling? You're getting more comments, are you?
No, Craig. Before you ask Steve the last question, would you take 17th and 22 league defeats for an FA Cup?
Well, there's one thing. The club, in essence, if we do that, the club should be sacking Thomas Frank if that happens, because they did it with Postecoglou. So
yeah,
that's true.
I think we'll be on the hunt for a new manager. Would I do? Yeah, I would probably. Because why not? Why not? It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter.
Mad on this program.
Let me just check. The FA Cup qualifies you for the Europa, doesn't it? If you win that.
Yeah.
So we'd still be in Europe. So yeah, I wouldn't do it for the Carabao. No way. Well, I'd probably do it for the FA. Yeah.
What about the winning the Champions League and getting relegated?
Oh, Jesus. You've got it in for me today, haven't you? Bloody hell. You could save that for somebody else. Getting relegated.
We've asked you all the boring questions, Steve. We're up in the game a little bit.
Yeah, the game. No, I'll take the Champions League. Yeah, that would be an amazing. you know, just to win the Champions League. It's a real strange one, but I'd want to win the Champions League, because how often do teams do that? Let's face it. Just one thing about Thomas Frank, a negative, if you like, is last season Brentford had 14 defeats. Yeah, that's only 8 more than us. They conceded 57 goals. That's only 8 less than us. And it's not, you know what I mean? It's not like he's the saviour. I'm hoping he is, but I mean, just to put something in there, because everyone's bigging him up, but obviously because he needs time to show what he can do. I'm not running him down. I'm just sort of bringing out some stats from last season. No, he's kept them there. He's done well. Like you said, never dropped down into the relegation zone. Yeah, I like what I've seen of him. Yeah. Looking forward to the new season, to be honest. Positive.
Craig, you got a final question for Steve?
I'm trying to think of a real git of a question, because Steve's had some real dramas in there. Yeah. Do you know what? I can't top that. I'm sitting here thinking, would I take it? Would I take Champions League and get relegated? I'm not sure I would. You know, I'm not sure.
We can't get relegated. There's no way.
No, I wouldn't. Exactly. I only have bloody 10 seconds to answer that question.
You're going viral, Steve. You're going viral, saying that we'll win the Champions League and get relegated, and you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'll just put a disguise on when I go out, and I go out like a woolly hat on and something. And no, anyway, so yeah, that's, I don't know. What was your question, Craig? Did you have one? Did you juggle one up? You said you were going to give me a bit of a.
I didn't have one, mate. No, I was trying to think of a git of a question, but I actually can't think of one worse than that one, because that is I think that would sting, wouldn't it? Just getting relegated. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine the feeling that we're relegated and you're in the Champions League final knowing you've got to win it? Can you remember this? Could you imagine the stress?
No,
yeah, the trophy.
We actually won it. If we won it, I'd take it. Not to get to the final. No.
Yeah, but imagine you've got to have a trophy parade for winning the Champions League, knowing then you're going to be playing the Championship. What a weird feeling that would be. That would be even more weirder than the summer that we're in now.
Just had, you couldn't. Yeah. That's right. I think
Steve, I'll give you a last question. Who would you like Spurs to face on the opening weekend of the season? Who would you like, if you could choose the opponents, either a home game or an away game? Who would you like Spurs to play on the opening weekend?
Home game to Man United. Like I said last time. Yeah, home game to Man United. Not your Sunderland and East. No. We'll play against a side that's, you know, supposed to be up there. There's only one place above us. They're still in turmoil, although they did get Kuna, and they're supposed to be after Mbuemo, but they probably won't get him. I mean, why did Kuna go there? I don't understand that. And why was, apart from the fact he supposedly sported them, and Mbuemo wants to go to United? I really don't get it. But everyone's got their reasons. They've got a lot of history, obviously, and that's probably what the attraction is. Okay.
Jim says here, not a realistic scenario. Jim, just having a bit of fun. I feel like we need a bit of fun on this channel sometimes. It's all too serious.
Right. Yeah.
Steve, keep up the great work. Keep running, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Cheers. Craig.
Cheers.
Great
Thanks,
show.
Steve. See you later.
Thank you. Right,
God,
we're now going to go to Tim.
Not allowed to have fun, are we? Not allowed to have a bit of fun.
Tim, great to have you with us. We haven't spoken to you for such a long while. What have you made of the news of Postecoglou going out the door and Thomas Frank coming in? Tim, I think you're on mute.
Wow, that's why I've been on for so long. I've forgotten how to press buttons.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. It's a sunny day by the seaside, so it's a good one. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about Frank. I think it's a good acquisition. I think we've gone down so many different routes. I want a steady hand. I can't go through last season. I think I might die of some, heart attack or something, or depression. You die of depression? I felt I was going to die of depression last year until Bilbao, really. So yeah, I'm reasonably pleased with that. It was one of three, wasn't it? And I think probably looking at it logically, I think he was probably the best.
I think he was he was out of those three. I think you're right. I think he was certainly my choice out of those three. What do you think he's going to bring? And do you know much about the coaching staff he's bringing with him, Tim?
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? I think the difference with Ange is Ange came as a sole project, if you like, and just impose what he wanted. But I think Frank's got a better idea of who's around him. I think he's got the lad who's with England, who's the ex-Tottenham guy as well, who's really good. I think his team sounds excellent. So I think in terms of hitting the ground running, they know what he wants. He knows what he wants. So I think it will be less drama, which please let it be less drama. I'd be happy with that. So I think it will be much more low key. It won't be that, when I was, remember those first 10 games when Ange was in there was like completely nuts and fun. It won't be that. It will be much more, right, let's build this and do this. I'm going to say properly. Maybe that will give you an answer to another question.
Tim, what do you expect from, say, the first 10 competitive games under Thomas Frank? What are your expectations? Because obviously it's going to take him a while to bed in, and if he's going to play new systems, and if he's going to be very tactically, changing things up, every game. Obviously that might take a little bit of time, but the expectations from the fans, of course, we want to win every game. So if some of the results weren't as good as we thought, do you think he's going to get that time and patience with the fans?
I think he will, because as you said, as other people have said, he's played so many different systems. He doesn't know our players, and it's going to take a time to get used to them and know not only what he wants to play, but what suits what he's got at the moment and what he could potentially get in. I think, bearing in mind we'll be finished last year, I think he'll have a lot of rope. As long as he stays somewhere near the middle of the table, I think he'll have a lot of rope for a good half a season. So I think that's a good thing. In many ways, Ange's done him a favour there. It was so bad in the league that it's going to be hard to beat that, if you know what I mean. So I think it's he will have a lot of opportunity to play around and test it out and see what's going on.
Tim, I think I know what you're going to say here. Would you take the 22 league defeats, finishing 17th, and win the FA Cup?
No, I'd have a bloody heart attack if I did that. I can't go through another one like that again. I tell you what it was, and if I take Bilbao aside, because Bilbao's Bilbao, right, and it was fantastic. It was literally draining the soul from me watching them. I've never ever had that watching Tottenham, and I've watched them for 40 odd years. That's giving away a few things. Last season was literally like the Voldemort thing. It was sucking the joy and energy out of everything, because it was so bad. As kind of, it was bad. It was just kind of depressing. And I think I can't cope with that again. I need some level of sensibleness going on. And I'm not, by the way, before anyone throws the comments out, I'm not blaming that all on Ange. I think there's loads of different reasons, particularly players who are saying, oh, we really love our gaffer and all that stuff. Well, bloody play for him then, because half the team did not pay for him for most of that season. So I'm hoping the management skills of Frank, because it does seem to be really good, gets a level of respect and team, squads togetherness that seem to be not there, apart from maybe one or two games towards the end of the season.
Yeah. Tim, last question for you. Heung-Min Son. Would you mind if he went, or would you prefer him to stay?
I tell you what the interesting thing about these are, we kind of gabbling on about who should stay, who should go. We don't know. It's like him and Maddison and people like that. It feels like they're either very unhappy or not fit. Just on the complete, money side of things, it's like, guys, when you go to the stadium, half the stadium's full of people from South Korea. Do you really think Levy's going to say, oh, we'll just throw that one to the side? I think that money will play a part in it. And that's a very kind of callous thing to say, but I think you've got to look at the money and go, there are so many Koreans in that stadium. Do you think he's going to throw that one away? I don't think so.
You're absolutely right, Tim. Commercially, that is worth absolute millions to the football club. And
I think it'd bring loads off the bench, striker number 10 out wide, just for 20 minutes, half an hour, I'd keep him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I would absolutely keep him. Tim, I know Craig said last question, but I just want to know, how many players do you think that Spurs will bring in but how many do you think Thomas Frank needs to really compete in the Premier League? And I keep using that phrase that the club have used. They want to be fighting on all fronts. Of course, Champions League is going to be a very different season next year. How many new players does Thomas Frank need?
Always got to look at the ones out on loan. There's tons of those. I'm a fan of Manor Solomon. I think he needs 5. I think he'll get 4. He needs at least 1 centre-back, 2 in the midfield, probably a playmaker. For God's sake, buy SA and have that over and done with, because he is a Tottenham player all the way around, and probably another striker, particularly another centre-back if he wants to play 3 at the back. We just haven't got enough. We've just got some really good young ones out on loan at the moment.
Tim, always love having you on. Don't leave it so long next time, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Pleasure, gents. Come on, you Spurs.
Thank you.
Cheers, Tim.
Right, we're now going to go all the way to Brazil and talk to G. G, hello. How are you?
Hello, Chris. Hello, Chris. Brazil calling. Can you hear me?
Brazil calling. Right, G, how are you feeling about the Thomas Frank appointment? You excited?
Frank out. I've got to be the first one to say it. Surely. No, I'm excited that he's in there. Yeah, of course. He's a good manager. As ever, I'm always going to be behind the team, the manager, anyone who's Tottenham. I'm always behind them straight from the off. I was with all the managers, even the Chelsea ones we had. I hated the fact that they was coming here, but you have to get behind them all. This is what it's about, isn't it? We're fans, we're supporters. So, yeah, of course, yeah. He's got a good rep for what he's done. I think he's done well. I don't know. I haven't got a crystal ball to know what he's going to be like, but there's a conversation to be had in it by us lot, I suppose. Something keep it going. If it didn't happen, we wouldn't have so much to talk about, would we? It'd just be about what's the transfer market doing as normally, as normal. But it's given us something to think about, isn't it? I suppose,
So you're quite happy with Frank then, G? Like you said there, who would have been the manager in your? If you could have gone out there and bought any manager in the world, who would it have been? Realistic.
I wouldn't have changed it. I would have stayed the same, Craig. I just feel that we're still not doing the rebuild. Everyone's going on about the position we ended up in, and there's never ever a context about it ever. We know the reason why we were bottom. You can't fight on all fronts like they're asking for. We was post Kane, still with 11 players out. We've been through all this so many times. It's so kind of a bit annoying as well that people don't see that and the reasons why and what we had to do, what Ange had to do in the end. So I basically would have stuck with him. I don't think there's a manager really that's any different, because they're all going to get the same. They're going to get a few games to start off with, maybe a month or two. Then they're going to get yelled at if it doesn't come off. They're not going to get any. They're not going to get any backing. This is the thing, it's just all down, and we're talking about management and all the rest of it. But the real issue here, all the way along, as it has been there for 25, getting on for 26 years, there's been one constant.
Gee, sorry to butt in, but you mentioned a key point there. You said about backing. The club have turned around and said they want to compete on all fronts. So if the club doesn't back the manager, we can't compete on all fronts, and we're back to square one. And if we lose the first 8 games, the fan base is going to turn instantly on Frank.
Yeah, and also, G, let me add to that. I feel like the club have put themselves under quite a lot of pressure with that statement. We want to be fighting on all fronts, because if we don't go out and sign, those experienced players in this transfer window, then, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that we're not going to be fighting on all fronts, because us as Spurs fans, we want to see us going, far in the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. We want to see us constantly in the top 4. We want to see us really competing at that top level in that elite competition, the Champions League. And without those top quality players coming in, and without backing the manager, and I know what Craig said there and what you've touched on already, how would you define backing the manager? Because you must give, every single window, even under Sir Alex Ferguson, when they were winning trophy after trophy, title after title, they would always still freshen it up. They would always sign players and freshen things up. Even when they were winning, they would still go out there and show real intent to then go and win again. That has to happen at Spurs next season, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Craig, spot on. And Chris, again, spot on. We know this. You more than anyone, you've been through it, or we've all been through it. it's just rinse and repeat, isn't it? Every time. I just think it's rudderless. I think the guy doesn't have a clue. I really do. I'm sorry about that. You know, I'm not one of these. I get people have to demonstrate and all the rest of it, but it's all down on Levy. He's not giving anybody any chance. He never does what he's done. I think he's quite happy, to be honest with you. I think he's quite happy with just getting into the Champions League, and that's it. That's all he wants. He's happy for his shareholders. He's happy for the board, for his board. Well, the board is no democracy there, is there? Do you know what I mean? It's definitely just him. So this is what it's all about, you know. Now, your question there was your main question. Your first part of that question was, sorry, Chris, what was that again? Because
well,
lost it.
I suppose I want to ask a lot of the people that come on this evening, certainly, about the experienced players, because even Ange touched on that a number of times before he left in a couple of press conferences about experienced players. We have a great development system. We have a great youth system, and we've got some real quality players in terms of, you know, players like Lucas Bergvall, for instance. You know, he's going to be he's one hell of a talent now, but imagine what he's going to be like in a couple of years' time. So I feel like we've got all of these young, talented players, but I feel like we need those now players to come in and literally, you know, a couple of them walk straight into the starting 11 and improve the team, and most importantly, improve the squad. I know a lot of people will say, well, we've actually got a fairly decent squad. When everyone is fit and available, we've got a decent squad. But then we are playing Champions League. And when you see some of these teams that are competing in that Champions League, it is a different level.
Yeah, we're not up to there. We're nowhere near that. No way. The players that we've got in, luckily, Ange's got some good players in that hit the ground running, which was fantastic, because that's never happened before. You remember I've said to you before, you know, when we played up north, up in Scandinavia and all these other places, when before with other managers where they just loaded it full of kids, we've lost drastically. Well, for the first time, that didn't happen this year, you know, thank God, you know. I think Levy's quite happy for us to be a feeder club. This is why with the stadium, I've also got a theory about that, a big one, that I think with the stadium, he wanted to be in this this group of elite, this new league. What's it called now? It's not come about at the moment, but that new league that they wanted, where it was just like the top 6, 7, 8 clubs or whatever.
The European Super League.
Yeah, they turned him down, and he's like, right, because obviously we've won nothing. Do you know what I mean? There was no way we could be up there with any of those with the names that listed up there, like the Madrids and everything. So he built the stadium, and of course he has to build the training ground with it, and then he's been accepted for it. I think that was the ambition there. The ambition is about the money, and that it's not about anything else. And when you look at that statement, it speaks volumes when he says we need to be fighting on all fronts. He's just won the first European Championship, only 3 times it's ever been done, and for 41 years. You know what I mean? So what's the other expectancy? Oh, you want us to be riding high in the top 5 or 6 places? Is that what you want? You want us to be up there in a European place and win Europe? That's basically the expectancy of it, isn't it? So if Frank's not going to get anywhere near that, and he's not had any evidence that he can do that because he's never done it before, I'm not knocking the guy, by the way. I'm just trying to get in the head of Levy, and I just don't get it. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit as well, and I want to put something to you, Chris, right? Because I hope you don't mind me doing this. Great question, by the way, to the one to your guest before. That was a stinger about where would you want to be? You know, what would you take for getting demoted or, you know, Champions League winning? That was wicked, mate. Absolutely. You're nasty sometimes. That was horrible.
Got to have a bit of fun on the show sometimes, haven't we? Come on.
Oh, mate, that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. But you know, so this is the thing, you know, Levy's got to be asked the same. And I would ask you, like, I know you like polls and stuff like that. Just indulge, if you wouldn't mind. Okay. I wonder, as a fan base, we know how we felt about the last manager, about him going or whatever. Would you put up a poll? Because I've got to say, this channel, it reaches everywhere. It reaches every kind of supporter and outside of our fan base as well. Let's face it, you know, like the good old Ali and that from Celtic and whatever, you know. But it reaches all around the world and everything. You know, if you could indulge me, Chris, if you wouldn't mind putting up a little poll, should Levy step down or not? I'd love to see that. I'd love to see what the fan base is really feeling about that right now. What it is down in the gut, you know. I'm not saying about Enoch out and all the rest of it, necessarily. Let's just play it nice and simple and just think, do we want him out? And do we want a footballing mind in there who picks the players? You know what I mean? Like the manager should. I don't think that happens. I thought Levy deceived me so much last season and 2 seasons. Ange was actually getting the players in for the first time, and you could see it was his players. He was on the phone. He was bringing them in, with Tao and everyone. So he deceived me, and now he's gone back again to how it was again, And I think Ange lost that job with that. There was definitely one of the interviews that he did where he said the first time, where he was adamant. He said, we have to have players of experience. That was like alarm bells ringing for Levy, because what experience means is, it doesn't mean there's experienced players, but every player's experience has to move up the scale to be experienced. And when they move up the scale, they're a bigger signing on fee. But the other thing that is worse, that he really doesn't like, sorry for shaking around a bit, Chair, is that it's not the signing, it's not that fee, it's the wage. And Buemo can go up to Man United. Man United, they will suck it up and go, look, we need to get things right again. We are a great club. Historically, we are one of the best that's ever been. We need to get ship in order. Do you know what I mean here? Let's pay the guy 200 grand a week. Now, if he does that, he's got to pay everybody around that, around that scene, that kind of amount. Levy's not going to do that, So all I'm seeing is that, they're offering him 70 grand and they're offering, I don't want to see that. I want to know, what's the wage?
Yeah.
What's he offering for the wage? I can't see that happening.
It will be interesting, G, to see whether any of those types of things will change in the next year or two, particularly how there's been that shake-up at board level as well. Donna Cullen, of course, stepping down, Vinay Venkatesham now coming in, who I'm told is an excellent communicator to the fans. And I know that the Supporters Trust have actually got a meeting with him very soon to talk about all of their issues with him, which I feel like that is an excellent start for him in the job, because there has been that lack of communication between board level and the fans. And I feel like that is really, really important. And as Craig has mentioned on this channel many times as well, that, Fabio Pracci used to put those regular updates out when he was working for the football club. It looks like he's going to return to the football club as well. So that communication between the club, the fans, I feel like is really, really important. But, we've got 2.5 months of this transfer window. I am really hoping, and I'm sure you are as well, that those experienced players do come in the door. And, like I say all the time, I'm not one of these fans to be completely unrealistic. Some people think they're playing Championship Manager or FIFA sometimes, just go and get him, just spend the money, do this, do that. The recruitment has to be right. We've gone out and spent big money before on players and it hasn't worked out. And, it's not necessarily sometimes about the money. It's about it's about the right choices. And there have been some really poor decisions from the football club in recent years, and some people feel like we've gone round in circles a lot of the time, and they need to learn from these. They need to learn from some of these mistakes. Gee, I could talk to you all night. We've still got a lot of people to talk to, but of course we will be running these fan shows every week, throughout the window. So we'll get you on again and we'll talk more.
Thank you, Chris. Well done. Thank you as well. Thank you, Craig, as well. All the best. Good night. Have a good night and enjoying the show. Take care.
Cheers, G. Thanks very much. Cheers. Right. We're now going to go to John. John, hello. How are you?
Hi. I finally got in. Happy Father's Day to you both.
And you, John.
Hello, John.
John, out of everyone you've listened to so far, I know you've been in the green room for some time. What points do you agree with? What do you disagree with?
Well, I wrote down a little list. You'll forgive me.
We love people that come prepared with lists.
Okay. Out. Dragusin, Richarlison, Davison, with our thanks and good wishes. Bentancur, I've got a question mark for. I don't see him setting the world on fire, but okay. And the third goalkeeper, whose name I can't remember. Out on loan, obviously, is Moore. He should probably go to West Bromwich Albion because he's got somebody there who's going to know him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we come to Sonny. Let's come to him at last. back in to give them a run. The two boys from the Orient, I know I've expressed that before. I'd like to see them back and give them a run, even if it's only in the Carabao Cup. And Solomon, I'd like to see him given a run, even if it is only in the Carabao Cup. Fresh in the door, I'd like to see Eze. And the other one from Crystal Palace is Walton. I'd like to see him in the middle of the park. I think he's going to be great. He's obviously an England international, and I think he's worth picking up. My choice.
No, it's good. I love it. Like Chris says, I love it when guests come prepared with lists and stuff. Yeah. And so Frank, John, the most important point of the day. How are you on Thomas Frank?
Well, I told you last time I'm ambivalent. I hope he proves himself. I hope he's here to stay. What we don't want to see is you guys sitting here 2 years' time saying, "Where do we go from here?"
We will be, John. You know it. You know we will be. That's the problem. Well, we all know how this story ends.
Yeah, I know it. It's
got to be different at some point, though, John, isn't it?
It's got to be different at some point. It's like a soap opera. We go around in ever-decreasing circles with the same script.
No, but seriously, I mean that in a very serious way. You know, when you have made mistakes, you know, don't you learn from those mistakes? Don't you want to improve? And you know, it must be really boring in some ways for the football club to keep replacing a manager so often. You know, when we talk about 18 managers in 24 years, it can't be any fun. Just keep replacing managers.
Precisely, I'd agree with you totally. We end up with these guys who have their careers put on the line to come to Tottenham, only to be sacrificed at the end of it because nobody will admit and the board and upper echelons of the club that they are the problem and not the solution. So as I say, I hope I hope Thomas Frank lasts at least 3 or 4 years, and we see something that starts to bloom. We're not going to be top of the poll in October. Don't believe it for a moment. Come the end of October.
Where are you on Heung-Min Son, John?
I think I said on your breakfast thing, that's in Daniel Levy's camp. He would tot up how much it is worth to keep Son, to keep the Koreans coming, and against how much he can get for him now.
Yeah.
So if a 30 million euro offer was on the table, John, would you take it? If it was your choice, would you take a 30 million euro offer?
I don't know how much we get from Koreans coming in.
I don't think we get as much as people think. We get a lot, but I don't think it's as much as people think.
And will we maintain them if we lose him? We got that young boy at Queen's Park Rangers. Is he the heir apparent to the Korean crown, as it were, at Tottenham?
But this should always be these decisions should always be a football one and not a commercial one.
Yeah, he's in his twilight. Do we put him on the bench and bring him out for the last 20 minutes every home game, and everybody can cheer? And he goes out at the end of the year with our grateful thanks, etc. Or do we take him on the tour? He plays in Seoul, gets his round of applause, and then he can go to Turkey if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. John, lastly, what do you make of the Matisse Tell deal, 6-year contract?
Well, as I said on Craig's morning show with my breakfast, he hasn't set the world on fire. And he's got to prove himself, hasn't he?
He has. Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts. Yes, yeah. I haven't seen enough.
Janet says here, Heung-Min Son, 900 shirt sales every single home game. I've read a similar stat. I think it's about 1,000 home shirts that they sell every single home game, which is an incredible number for commercial.
$150 a time, or £100 a time.
Yeah.
So that's 100,000 he's pulling in over 19 home games. That's 1,900,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you,
we'll speak to you soon.
John.
Take care, Monica.
Cheers. Right,
I think
we're now going to go.
Say to people, Chris, that the green room is now shut. If you're not in the green room, because we're going to run out of time getting everyone in. So
no problem. Right, we're going to now go to Andrew. Andrew, evening. How are you?
Hi, Chris. Hi, fans. I'm not sure what's happening with my camera. It's going all crazy here.
We've got Andrew with us from Jamaica.
Yeah, well, you can hear me?
We can hear you, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, my camera is probably not working so well today. I'm not sure why.
That's all right, as long as we can hear you.
All right, great. So I've been listening to a lot of the players because I've been in early, and I have a couple of questions. Right, the major challenge that we have had so far is putting together a really good squad for Europe. Whether it's been from the days when Pochettino was there, we have had this challenge with homegrown players and that kind of stuff. We haven't really done much to fix it yet, even though we have a couple of good young players coming through, Alfie Darrington, Ashley Phillips, and the others, but they're still not quite ready yet. And I think that impacts what we do in Europe. It also impacts the kind of squad that we can put together. Because we can buy a lot of the good players that we see out there, but we need to fix that, right? Which means that we need to give these players a chance to really play and to see what they can do. So we probably need to name them in our squad so that we can have a full 25-man squad for Europe. That would make a difference, I think. That's one of the things that I think we need to look at. But are they good enough? That's the other question. And will they be good enough to play? Then the other thing that we have, Vuskovic comes in. He's a left-sided player who can play either right side or left side of the defense. So we probably don't need to necessarily buy a left-sided centre-back, but we could bring him in now and push him in the league. Let's see what we can do with that. Davis will get some cover, and I think he probably, with his speed and height, because he carries the ball well, he could probably be a backup left back for now, or use Davis to play left back, which is his more accustomed position, and use Vuskovic to play the centre back. That's part of what I think. We still need a creative midfielder somewhere, and I think as a backup, Madison alone can do. I know Bergvall is good, but he's still learning his game. Eze would come in and be a good addition, I think, right there. I don't necessarily think we need a central striker. I think Richarlison will still be a good backup for Solanke. And we probably do need somebody on the left wing. And we do have a couple of players coming. I'm not sure what Alfie Devine looks like now, but when are we going to give our young players a real chance? I think because we really do need to look at the squad that we have and notice that we can actually make it better over the long term. But we need some players for here and now. And without the board is talking, and this is my question, the board is talking about challenging on all fronts. When Pochettino did well in the Champions League, we didn't do all that well in the league. When he was doing well in the league, we went out of the FA Cup and the others very, very early because he couldn't do. And if you look at the teams that have done well in one competition or the other, about the only two teams that have consistently done well in all these competitions, Manchester City and Liverpool. And they had large squads.
Yeah.
And they went out and bought the players that they want, and they paid the price that they wanted for the players, 50, 60, 70 million pounds, and they played them because they knew that they needed the squad to be able to challenge on more than one front. Tottenham is not going to do that. Not with this board. And so we're kind of trying to blame the manager for everything else, which is why I don't blame Ange. I thought it was very smart. He knew that he couldn't really compete on more than one front successfully. So he made the decision, let me give them Champions League, let me give them a trophy, and let me bring that feel-good factor, and then they can build on that. But after last year, when we bought a lot of young players, and we never bought any ready-made players that would fit into the Premier League very well, he had to make a choice come January. And then with the injuries decimating his squad, what else was he going to do?
Andrew, what are your thoughts on Thomas Frank?
Well, I think he's a good coach. I have no doubt about that. But he's not going to get his chance at a top club. Because to be honest, Brentford is not in the same league as a Tottenham in terms of club size and fan base and that kind of stuff. So he's going to get his chance at Tottenham. But if he starts out as he has always started in his last two clubs, Brentford and the one before, where he loses 8, 9, 10 games in his first 15 or 20 games, he's going to be in trouble. He's going to be in trouble. He may change one or two of those games and we will draw a couple of more games instead of losing them. But that's going to lead us to a mid-table club, 9th, 7th, 8th, 10th, and we're going to drop out of the Champions League after the first round. How does that progress? Apart from what Ange did last year, apart from what Pochettino did in his final year when he was crying out over 500 days, he never gave one single player, and he was talking about rebuilding the squad at least a year and a half before he was actually fired. And because he knew what he needed to do, but he never got the support of the board, and so it is going to be rinse and repeat after another year and a half, 2 years, and we're going to be back here talking about the same thing. So Ange made sure that he left a legacy by focusing on winning something and doing it right. I'm not sure Frank is going to do that.
Andrew, let's finish on a positive.
Yes.
How did you and the people of Jamaica, the Spurs fans in Jamaica, celebrate our Europa League final win?
Oh, a lot of them were I know we drank a few Red Stripe for that and stuff. I was happy. And it was good because you finally got a real big monkey off your back. You're now able to look at my Arsenal friends and co-workers and say, I won a trophy. What have you won? You finished second how many years? What else is that? You know, nothing. That's in Jamaica. What have you got? You got nothing to show me except that you finished second. All right? You won a FA Cup in the first season with what else have you done since then? All you do is challenge every year and you go out. And that's it. I can say we won a trophy, even though we finished 17th. But we won something, and we're in Champions League, just like you. We're in the Champions League. What else have you got? So I got a trophy. I got a parade. You ain't got nothing over me, mate.
Andrew, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Looking forward to it, Chris. And next time, I hope my camera doesn't behave. So this
no problem.
It's behaving like it's from Arsenal.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
All right, cheers, Chris. Cheers.
Right, we're now going to go to Dennis. Dennis, evening. How are you doing?
Chris, Craig, how you doing? Very well.
Good, good. Dennis, what do you make of the appointment of Thomas Frank? Of course, it has been a very busy week in terms of, it's meant to be a holiday week and, there's been a lot of Spurs news, a lot of speculation at the moment about players coming in the door. Brian Mbeumo, would you like to see him join Spurs alongside Thomas Frank?
I'm very pleased with Thomas Frank. I think it was a right decision regarding Ange. I know you've had a lot of talk about that, but in my opinion, yes, after the league form, it was the right decision. I would take a punt at Harry Kane. I really would. I don't know if he's available, but you never know in football. You never ever know.
I don't know. He's no good though, is he? Harry Kane.
Yeah.
They won 10-0 today, and Harry Kane didn't even get an assist or a goal. I think he's lost it.
He's lost it all, isn't he? He's gone, finished. Listen, I'd love to see Harry Kane. In Mbeumo, I think the main man, if we're going to go for throughout your talk this evening, Chris and Craig, we have to have players that are up and running and are going to be there playing straight away. No more youngsters. We need players. I would go for Eze if I was honest. I think he's the one player. If we could get two of them, that would be great. That would be really great. But
that's it, though, Dennis, isn't it? Haven't we got to show a bit of ambition and not just say this player or this player? Go and get both of them. You know,
your number one targets. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we're going to back the manager, we've heard it this evening several times. If we're going to back the manager, we have to do it by, yes, you can have that player. Yes, you can have that player. What I did like earlier, I can't remember the guy that said we needed a number 6. Brentford were always after Archie Gray, and we took him from the grasp from them, and I reckon he will be our number 6 next year. And I think Mr. Basuma his days might be numbered. I'm not 100%. But anyway, I've got a question for you guys. Might be asked earlier. Sorry, I had my dinner halfway through. But fixtures come up Wednesday. What's the first 2 games of the season? In your crystal ball, come on, name them.
I'd love Chelsea away first game.
And secondly, Craig?
Sunderland at home, I'll take.
Yeah, I if I was to predict, I'd say Sunderland at home would be our opening game, and then something like Everton away at their new stadium.
Oh, good shout. Good shout.
Yeah.
I'm going to be horrible and say Brentford away first game, Man City at home.
Yeah. Well, they're all difficult games, aren't they? It's funny
100%.
because we talk about this a lot, as though like, oh, we want to get off to a good start, so can we play X, Y, and Z? But it doesn't work like that. They're all very, very difficult games. But I feel like the fan base need to really get behind the manager on that opening weekend of the season, whether it's a home or away game, particularly if it is a home game. Get behind the manager, and hopefully we get off to a winning start and play some decent, entertaining football. And also, it would be nice to see him be very flexible with formation. If something isn't working in that first half, then perhaps in the second half, we will see a different formation, and he'll swap and change things up. And I feel like that will be really impressive towards the fan base, because we didn't see a lot of that under Ange Postecoglou, because he always said, this is the way that we play and this is how we do things. So, yeah, I feel like this is a good appointment. As the club statement said, he is a progressive manager. He's done a very, very good job at Brentford, and he does deserve this chance. There's no question or doubt about that. The Champions League games, of course, is a big step up for him. That Super Cup game against PSG is a huge game for your first competitive game in charge at Spurs. But it's all in this transfer window. The next 2.5 months are absolute key. Dennis, if I was to ask you, what's an absolute minimum? What is the definition of backing Thomas Frank in this window? And if you were Thomas Frank, what would you be demanding? Because for a manager like that who has been in charge of Brentford, he's been very complimentary about Spurs, as I said earlier, in various press conferences. But if you are an outsider looking in and then you go and take charge of Spurs, what would be on his list of thinking, right, this is exactly what Spurs need to improve them. This is exactly what Spurs need to do to climb up that Premier League table, to get more points, to be more difficult to beat. Because that is one thing about Thomas Frank's sides. They are difficult to beat.
To be honest, after all the players writing on Instagram, whatever, WhatsApp saying back in Ange and things like that, I think the most important thing is for him to get the backing of the players straight away. If he can get the backing of the players, that is the first thing. But secondly, the board have got to recognise that over the years, I mean, I can't remember how many managers you said over Levy's
18 and 24.
18 and 24. They have got to look at themselves, and I think they have looked at themselves, looking at the boardroom switches in the last 3 or 4 months. I think they've realised that things have to change. He would have asked them before he got the job, 100%. I need A, B, C for me to move forward. He's got the his backroom staff, which he wanted, by the sounds of it. He would have asked for certain players that he would be looking at for them to get, and that is a minimum for this club, I think, to be honest.
Yep.
Sorry, Dennis, I was on mute. So if you could pick 2 players to come in, I know we've kind of covered this off, but any 2 players, who would it be?
Well, it's Eze and Harry Kane. I know that sounds way off, but
I'll take it.
What about realistic ones, Dennis?
Yeah. All right. I'll throw one out there. If Son is going to go, and I think it's the right time because he's lifted that trophy, I would go for Eze, and I'd go for that Southampton player, Dibbling.
A lot of money there.
I know
a
it's
lot
a lot of money, but he's a very good player, and he can play across the park. He's not just a left. He can do a lot of things. I've seen him a few times. I think he's very good.
Dennis, thank you so much for joining us. And I can't believe, I think this is going to be the first fan show where we actually finish on time. This is all Craig's idea now of giving everyone 5 minutes, and it's working extremely well, I must say.
Can I just say, the 7 minutes injury time was a lot shorter than your 5 minutes. It's just flown by. I don't know what happened.
You've actually, I think you went over about 2 minutes, Dennis. So, it's
sorry about
that. He's taken us neatly to the 2 hour mark. That's all I'll say. But you are a great guest, Dennis. So thank you very much,
guys.
for coming
Lovely
on.
to speak to you. Thank you very much.
And you.
Speak to you soon. Cheers, Dennis.
Bye.
See you later.
Craig, yet another fantastic fan show. Lots of difference of opinions there, and it's interesting, isn't it, that some people want Ange Postecoglou forgotten already. Don't want to talk about Ange anymore, although he delivered us a trophy only a couple of weeks ago. But a lot of people seem to be really behind Thomas Frank and what he brings. And we've spoken about it already this evening, but we'll touch on it again. No one seems to say anything bad about Thomas Frank. People who have worked in football, pundits, ex-players, etc., etc. Even his own player, Christian Norgard, come out and said in the last couple of days that he really cares about the players. He really cares about how the players feel. There's so many compliments about Thomas Frank. I'm really looking forward, actually, to see how Spurs do set up. In that first Premier League game. Of course, I know we've got the pre-season games as well before that, but I'm really looking forward to the new season. But of course, we've got to go big in this transfer window. But it's great, isn't it? How many people are complimenting Thomas Frank and this appointment?
It is good to hear. What I would say, this club, everybody said that about Ange. Everybody was complimentary about Ange when he joined, and it is this club that. It's a step up for him. The expectations on him at Brentford are a lot lower than at Tottenham. Let's face it, probably Brentford is finishing mid-table each season. That's probably his remit, whereas at Tottenham, the pressure's going to be more, the expectation's going to be more. Yeah. And I just hope that he can deal with that, because the worst thing, look, Thomas Frank didn't ask for Ange Postecoglou to be sacked. Right, and he's been headhunted. He's been recruited by Tottenham, and I think the important thing is for the fan base to get behind the manager, and those that are really, like me, that wanted Ange to stay, that didn't want Ange to go. Everyone just needs to get behind the manager, because that's all you can do. And what I'm pleased about is, having researched him, he is a very, very good coach, and I'm more impressed by his coaching staff. That the Cochrane chap that was at Tottenham, he comes incredibly highly regarded, very good coach, works very well with the players, part of the England setup, and if anybody watched my video from earlier, very good tactical and analyst actually as well. He was actually asked to do some analysis on it was for the program, I believe, in Bilbao for the final, but it was all about how our fullbacks worked against AZ Alkmaar. So he knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing. So this coaching team, I think, is going to be very important going forward for Tottenham.
Of course, Craig, the channel will have a lot of content going out with all of these transfer rumours. Everything is flying around at the moment. Lots of rumours, reports, news. And the transfer window reopens for part 2, and this time it is a big part 2 because it's open for 2.5 months. Monday the 16th of June, and then it will be open until Monday the 1st of September. Last question for you, Craig. What are your expectations? What do Spurs need to do as an absolute minimum? And if you were Thomas Frank, what would be on your to-do list? What would you be giving to your good friend Johan Lange and saying, look, this is what we need to drive us forward to fight on all fronts?
I think the basics of what we spoke about. We need, ideally, in my opinion, 5 or 6 readying our players that are going to challenge to come into that first team squad. That would be an ideal transfer window for me. Move out the players that he doesn't need. We have got issues, and these probably for another show, about homegrown issues in the certainly in the Champions League. There is major issues around that, and that's why the likes of Cole Walker-Peters was touted as a possible incoming, because if we don't, we've only got one on the books at the moment, I believe. And it's just going to take up space in that Champions League squad, because you have to, if you can't fill them, you just have to leave them blank. So there's going to be issues surrounding that. But we need, Thomas Frank will want to have a good look at the players. And that's always the infuriating thing when a manager does come in, because I see people online getting so infuriated by it, and I get it. They're saying, oh, so-and-so is going to be looked at again. So-and-so is going to be looked at again. These players you think that should have moved out 2-3 years ago are going to get another chance under the manager. But that's football, unfortunately. So Thomas Frank might see something in a player that a lot of people want out the club or think it's time to go. That's why we don't know how this conversation is going to go with Heung-Min Son. Some people saying that we should cash in on him. Thomas Frank might want Heung-Min Son to stay around. You know, we don't know. These are all unknowns, but the list he gives to Johan Lang is going to be a list of players, you would think, and saying, look, go and get me those players if we want to compete, because I'll come back to it. The club wants us to compete on all four fronts. We can't compete on all four fronts as it stands. We can't. So he needs to strengthen the squad.
As per usual, a big thank you to you, Craig, and a big thank you to everyone who has contributed to tonight's show. You know, we've had guests on from the likes of Jamaica, Brazil, Italy, Ireland, USA, England, Czech Republic, and many other places. It's incredible how many people want to contribute to this show, and everyone is welcome, no matter where you are based in the world. So if you'd like to get involved in a future episode, please do just send an email, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com, and we'll get you on one of the next shows. Craig, thanks so much for joining me yet again. I know you put a lot of work into this channel now, doing the daily updates as well of the headlines. What are you up to, and where can people find you?
At Dearman9 on X, if you want to follow me. And what am I up to? Just keeping a very close eye on the transfer window when it reopens on the 16th. And, of course, very keen to see who our opening fixtures are on Wednesday this week. What I would say, you talking about people from around the world, I'd love to get a few of our Korean fans on, because I think it would provide a really good insight as to, you know, how highly regarded Heung-Min Son is in your country, and how you see this going from a Korean perspective. So if anybody wants to come on that's in Korea, by all means drop Chris an email and let's get you on the show.
Absolutely. Everyone welcome, as I said. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show, and have a great week, and we will see you on the next one. Until then, come on you Spurs.
We'll be right back.